Okay. So today we have Rahul Batra with us. Rahul has one of the most diverse and dynamic profiles. Like he has a very wide and broad experience, and his work speaks for itself. Like he is currently placed heading the finance department at AdmitCard, which is a Noida-based startup. His journey started off from Ernest and Young, one of the big fours, where he was an assurance senior, and then from there he went on to Macquarie, where he was an executive, and HCL. So you name the big companies, and I think Rahul's worked there. HCL Technologies. After that, there was Azaste. Rahul is also a content writer by profession, so he's also done a few of the freelancing projects with Azaste, after which we have PwC, where he's been a government consultant, and from there he went on to GST, and he was also worked there in the business intelligence and fraud analytics team. After that, it's admit card for him. So,
Right.
Rahul, I think it's a total honor and privilege to have you on board with us. And I think more than me, it would be great if we can hear about your wide and broad experience from you itself.
Right. Hi, Trishika. Thank you so much. And thank you, CA Monk, for giving me this opportunity. Again, one rare opportunity to, come forward and share my experience with all of you. I had a numerous face-to-face with all the CA aspirants and freshly qualified CA. But I think with this thing which you are doing, I really want to make the best of it so that that people can get some insights and let's see how it goes. So really excited as much as you guys are to have me here. I am honored to be able to speak my mind and let and contribute to my fraternity. So really looking forward, and so let's go ahead, Trishika. Let's see how it goes.
Sure, sure, sure. So, Rahul, I think we should start off with knowing about what your journey has been like your professional journey from you itself. Like, how did it start? What is happening now? Everything. Like, can we just have a walk through to it?
Great, great. So, off lately, it's been 12 years. So, May
Okay.
2011 is when I got this tag to myself, CA.
Right.
And I really feel proud and blessed to have that. Not even a single day do I complain that why did I choose this profession. So, I think, and that is what is keeping me going and performing better each day. Okay, and and one thing that has come to me very often, and what you have also mentioned, that I have a diversified profile. Let me be very honest that that was never the plan to be diversified. So one opportunity led to another and to another, and it's only in last 5 years that now I talk to myself and say, "Oh, Rahul, you really did good to yourself, and God has been great." Honestly, so sometimes when you just go a little unplanned, things really fall into place, and that is what exactly has happened with me when I look back. uh, 12 years ago when I got my CA, in May 2011, July, I started searching for jobs. The only thing that I wanted to do was direct taxations. And so that is where I wanted to build my career. And every time I had been looking for jobs, and then somebody told me that you're just, wasting time, and, why don't you just kickstart your career and see how it goes? Okay. And that is when I opted for EY, being a good brand and audit, they were offering me audits, so I just took that. And honestly, that time the results have been very good, leading to that imbalance of supply and demand. And so we were more like a taker than a chooser.
Right.
That I have to choose this field for myself, this job. So things really changed after the May 2011 intake, and I went ahead with that. It started off as working in a shared service, then
Okay.
going into outsourcing,
Uh-huh.
then captive, then doing an entrepreneurial stint, to government consulting, suddenly to working for a government company, and now heading the finance. So none of them
Wow.
related to each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, none of them
exactly.
related to each other, and so people would say that how did that happen? But it actually
Correct.
happened, I think, sheerly because was very confident about
Hmm.
myself. I should say that, and I say that very proudly. That one
Okay.
thing that never went away from me was my confidence, and that is where things really landed in place. So that's about it. I think that is where I would stop here for the next question to come in, and I'll start and throw more light around what
Sure,
happened and
sure,
how
sure.
it happened.
I think that was really like, you two spoke about how you went from one profile to the other absolutely unplanned. I think you made the
Yeah.
most of the opportunities that came your way. All the time you made sure that you grabbed each one of them and you obviously did justice to each of these roles that came your way. So when
Yes.
we talk
Yes.
about these different roles, Rahul, what are the various profiles that you worked over the period, like in these years of
Okay.
your experience? Yeah.
Right. So EY was audits.
Okay.
So they call it assurance.
Okay.
And it since it was not the client-facing assurance service line,
Hmm.
it used to be called as GSS in my times, but it is now called as GDS, Global Delivery Services. They have
Okay.
really gone big, and I think all the big fours are into it now. That time EY was the first one and the biggest one who were offering these kind of roles.
Hmm.
So what that gave me was exposure to audit practices that happen outside India. So that was a good thing. But audit was never my cup of tea. So it was only less than a year that I decided that I had to move on. And I started to think that I have taken that decision in haste. Maybe I ran behind the brand and I took it, but nonetheless every opportunity taught me something. So then I went to finance. So finance is something that I always been inclined towards because somewhere I had given up of getting into a direct taxation. So I thought let it be. But on personal front, I used to read a lot about direct taxations,
Hmm.
always being updated for when the budget used to come in, or maybe filing ITRs. And
Correct.
so my dad is also practicing CA, so that also gave me that fodder, I should say, and that time and that space where I could uh, fulfill my dream of working in direct taxation. So
Nice.
in the peak ITR filing season, I used to make some time to go to his workplace after work and
Nice.
do some
Wonderful.
filings of corporate filing and some. So that always helped me be
Yeah.
in touch with that direct taxation.
Correct.
So I was never away from it because something
Yeah.
that I was always passionate about. And
Right.
finance is something because numbers have, I think, I had a love for numbers and Excel sheets and big Excel sheets, big applications. So Macquarie gave me that. So it's
Okay.
an Australian bank,
Hmm.
and I was working as a finance executive there, where we used to do month-end closing primarily, and also support an audit of Australian entities. And that is where I learned that uh, huge organizations, how do they work? Their accounting softwares, how do they work? For us, journal entries used to be this debit to this credit, but that debit and credit in a row line item on an Excel sheet appears to be very different. And
Exactly.
how do balance sheets get finalized at entity level and roll up to on in during consolidation to a parent entity level? So that
Hmm.
was the whole thing that Macquarie gave me.
Correct.
So again, I think yes. So I am a person where whenever comfort tries to seep in, that is where I think it's time to move on. Okay, and Macquarie, I worked for more than 2 years there, and or maybe close to 2 years now. And then I thought, let's explore something else. And then HCL happened for me.
Hmm.
So HCL is a outsourcing company, and that is where I started to feel really good about the fact that every CA would be doing auditing, direct taxation, transfer pricing, and all that. I am doing something new.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
now know what's the difference between a shared service to a captive to a outsourcing, which none of them knew. Okay, so EY
Correct.
being a Macquarie being a captive to HCL being a outsourcing. So how do things
Oh,
change? Okay, they
okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
then HCL becomes so for HCL, client is the priority. So I used
Okay.
to do finance for UBS, Union Bank of Switzerland, and they are into investment banking. So moving from kind of a Australian bank to another bank, but that was more towards mortgages business in Macquarie, to purely an IB business. And this time it used to be working entirely, from London. Also, I went for almost a month to London and got some work here, and how you
Okay.
make businesses out of finance process outsourcing. So that gave me a lot of those ideas around that.
Mhm.
And from there, I thought I'm getting a bit directionless. And so let's take a pause. So pause was very important. And I think I would, somewhere in this entire podcast, I will try and put in these gyan also in between, if that is okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that is
definitely.
really important for people who are, little impatient these days. That pause is extremely important, and there is no harm in taking a pause. But the duration and the stage of pause matters a lot. So maybe that time, I was a bit directionless, and I thought, let's take a pause and figure out what's happening in my life. But you just can't sit at home, no. So I had a plan in mind, and where I was doing freelancing content for a startup. Now they are not no more in operation, but they were used to be, giving those quick finance reads across all the different areas of taxations and budgets and everything around that thing. And apart from that, I was also teaching. So,
Nice.
so I was, yes, yes. So I was teaching ACCA students. So just to, see how it goes, took a year-long break, and then quickly I got into my corporate career. I did a lot of research here and there. So again, I thought now I have taken a pause. Now I can get onto direction of being into a direct taxation, and that is when my life completely changed. Okay, because there was an opening in PwC. It was referred to by my friend. He said, see,
Yeah.
there is an opening in direct taxation. Why don't you try that? I went ahead, went for the interview with the partner, and he saw something else in me, and he said, don't do direct taxation. Okay, why don't you choose government consulting? So demonetization had happened that time. And
Oh, okay.
they told me that why don't you do government consulting and you work for the income tax department. So completely new. I was flummoxed. I was like, what is happening? So, but then that bug in me that always said that do something different, hit me hard, and I said, let's grab this. And from there, my life course completely changed, where I was doing government consulting, meetings top officials, and happened to work through my 3.5 years of that journey with PwC. I happened to see major national transformations. So one being demonetization and the other being GST. So
Oh,
I saw that from the behind the curtains. Okay, where there was
wow.
so much hue
Wonderful.
and cry. From the other side, I was seeing it. I was witnessing from the other side.
Exactly.
So yeah, and seeing, and my appreciation and my regards for government had even gone further when I saw that they work day and night just to make
Yeah,
things
right.
right for nation.
Correct.
And from there, so GSTN happened with me moving. So they knew about me, and then Goods and Service Tax Network, there was an opening. I approached them, and I went into GSTN, worked there as a business intelligence and fraud analytic guy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a small team in GSTN who looks after the entire data of GST, do some data modeling around that, and try and unplug certain malpractices that keep happening. So I won't be able to divulge a lot of details around there, but that is where my role was from a business side. Okay, not from the technical side, but data analytics had become my forte till then. So I was able to
Wonderful.
contribute easily there. And now a completely new life is happening here in Admit Card as a finance head, not only heading the finance, but also looking at various aspects of HR and a bit of business also. So a fantastic role, I should say that, loving it each day and each night, because nights also go in that. So that's about it, Rishika.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think out of this whole journey of yours, two of the key takeaways would be that one thing that you said is that once comfort starts seeping in, that is when you're slipping in, you would know that things need to be shaken a little bit. I think that is a lot of you're on mute. So I think that is
One
one of the
second. Yeah,
yeah. Uh, s-
go ahead, go ahead.
so yeah, I think two of the key takeaways from what you've told us about your journey is one thing is when comfort starts slipping in is when you know that things need to be shaken a little bit and you need to, mix a few things in your life or change certain things. That one thing I think a lot of us need to pay attention to, that we don't get into our comfort zones once we are comfortable with a particular domain. And the other thing that you told is pressing pause. I think a lot of us are petrified by the term pressing pause, or like, taking a step back and thinking, or like, putting like rethinking your life on your choices. That's a lot of people may, not really be willing to do that, but you have done that and you've done it really beautifully. And that gave you that insight or that perspective that you needed to push your journey even better. Like then your PwC, then your life started as a government consultant, and from there you went on to your next job, that is your government that actually working into the GST. And the major learnings of your life have come from those two domains, I feel, right? And that's what, when once you understood that, you got that perspective of understanding what happens on the government side and what happens on your like on the individual front, and that's when you understood that, okay, how do businesses actually work. And then you went on to heading a finance department in admit card in a startup. So I think it's these small experiences that gathered you, that were actually preparing you for the bigger picture in your life, that was being the head of finance, where you're handling multiple roles at once, right? So I think it is that open-minded approach that one needs to have in life, and be open to uncertainties or things that you did not plan, but destiny had plans. Like at PwC, you went absolutely for a different role. You went for something for direct taxation, but the interviewer there saw something else in you and he thought that no, you would fit in better. So if you didn't have that open-minded approach of yours, I think life would have turned out different. So I think that was a
Right.
very good advice or an insight from your life that a lot of us can take out and can actually implement that in our own lives. So
Thank you.
since
That's correct.
yeah, yeah, so Rahul, I think the next question I'd like to put up to you is that since you've worked in so many profiles, unplanned, undecided, do you recommend a lot of students to do the same? Like, do you recommend people to actually switch profiles or explore a lot of domains at the start of their career?
Uh, Beautiful question. Okay. To which I would say yes and a no.
Okay,
Okay. A big yes and also a big no. So one has to know for themselves as to what their personal situations are in life and how risk averse they are, so or risk taker they are. You can't just do, because anyone who would now watch this podcast may have that kind of a fire in them that if he can do it, why not me? Okay, so never
right,
do that. Okay, never blindly follow someone. So uh as I when we started this off, I said that this was never the plan. Okay, it
correct,
just
correct,
turned out to me that way, but it might not just turn out the way for you also. Okay,
absolutely,
so be very watchful and mindful of what steps that you are going to take. Okay, maybe it was uh yeah, not the option for me. Okay,
correct,
that
correct.
I have to take that, and honestly at this moment, maybe uh I should say it. Okay, I don't want to jinx it. I never had two or three offers at one time. I
Uh,
always had difficulty to find a job for me,
okay,
always.
yeah,
Okay, and to which people would say, yeah, he's a Shriram College of Commerce graduate, he's from this school, his grades are so well,
correct.
he has everything that what a cop, but that doesn't happen. So a lot
Mm,
of things play a role at one time: destiny,
right,
your network, being there at that time, so everything. But
absolutely,
having said that, I always say never be confined to one role. Okay,
right,
take
right.
some risk, take some risk. Just because you got into audit and then you say that up now there are no chances of me to switch any careers, that's
Mm,
not the fact. Okay, that's not the fact. That is when people dry themselves up. and in just 10 years they feel uh, slavery hai, corporate job ye hai. That's not the case. You have to take out the best of the job, of the thing, of the potential from there, right?
Correct.
Trishika, I have to pause here. If you just
Sure,
cut
sure.
this part, okay,
Yeah.
just 1 second.
So I think Rahul, you answered that question really well. You said that the answer to it is not a black or a white area; it's a gray area. You need to first analyze your current situation and think through a lot of things before you take these steps. Of course, you need not constrain yourself or restrict your mindset, thinking that, oh, I cannot, since I've worked these many years in this profile, so it wouldn't be recommendatory for me to switch profiles if I'm not enjoying my current job. If you're not enjoying what you do, then definitely take the plunge, and then you can explore other options. But if your circumstances are not so, then continuing in one profile is a good thing, like having a specialization or going ahead and becoming the master of that domain wouldn't harm you in any way. Just for the sake of it,
That's correct.
basically, I think one should not go and keep exploring profiles after profiles, right?
Right,
uh,
that's correct. That's
so
correct. Just because you see Shark Tank doesn't mean that you are the next entrepreneur. It's like that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Rahul, one more question that comes to my mind is that, okay, we understand this circumstantial decision that one needs to take based on their current situation. So that's the answer to the question that whether one should keep switching profiles or explore other profiles. So, is there a point in your career when you should actually start having a laser focus? When you should fixate on one thing and start thinking that, okay, no, now it's a bit more riskier than it used to be when I was younger. So, is there any time bar or an age where one needs to stop doing that and start having a laser focus?
Right. To which I would say that times have really changed of
Hmm.
lately.
Correct.
But
Hmm.
I feel that after 5 years of your journey, after post qualification, so I would restrict it to only con- considering only chartered accountant
Yeah.
in our in this question. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So I feel after 5 years, one should now sit and see for themselves that where they want to take their career.
Okay.
So you just can't always be hopping from one place to
Okay.
another
Yeah. Yeah.
directionless or running after money. So to and very early also, if you get very focused, I think that's also not recommended. I feel that way, because
Correct.
then in order, if you are aspiring to being a leader or doing something for your own self and making it big in life, then you just can't have one experience in hand and making it big.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's absolutely not the case. So I think, as you rightly said in about some minutes back, and where I felt that this podcast is going amazing, and
Mhm.
that you said, and where I also feel that now heading the finance is like joining all the dots together that I have been doing all
Correct.
this while. Okay, from being audited to a finance guy, to a consultant, to a data analytics. Now everything that I have learned, small or big, in all my uh, years so far, has is now helping me each day. Okay, so
Exactly.
whenever I sit and try to solve one problem, I say, "Arey yaar, us time ye kaam kiya tha." That's helping me
Absolutely.
now. So
Yeah.
that is what I want to say. Yes. So laser focus, 4 to 5 years, I think, is a safe time that you should now start thinking that what you want to do. And because it's not that when you think you will get it immediately. That also is
Absolutely.
a process. So
Right.
so
Right.
that is what I feel. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the recommendatory period would be like 5 years. Like you take these 5 good years that you try to, try your hands on different things and try to explore, okay, is this working for me? Is this not working for me? And then after that, I think that's a good enough period that you can analyze and you can watch for yourself what would serve you in the long
Yes.
term, or what you would actually be good at. And you can, coincide your own talent skills with the profile which fits it or suits it really well.
Totally. So 5 years to play,
Yeah,
and uh then just get on to the real work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so Rahul, I wanted to ask you that if there is any in these, like since you worked in these various profiles, is there one profile that you loved working in the most? Like, what is that one profile? If you had to put a finger on it and say that, okay, this by far was the best, and why? If you feel so, then why?
Hmm. So, as I said, every job has really taught me something very
Correct.
precious. So,
Absolutely.
all of them, I have full respect to everything. They paid me for
Mhm.
that. Okay.
Right.
And they gave me experience. So, I have full respect to each job, each company, each seniors that helped me through this. But one thing, that really where I felt that, yes, great. That really made me jump in the morning and say, काम पे जाना है. ठीक है. So I think that started when I became a government consultant, and I was doing these fraud analytics through PwC as a consultant in one of the directorates of GST departments.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the my sir who was there, and
Mm-hmm.
so he helped me a lot, and so it opened a lot of aspects about my own personal self, professional self. What is it being a leader? So everything was just coming out very beautifully in my life around that
Right,
time.
right, right.
And so that was in 2018 when it started off, and exactly 5 years
Mm.
of my corporate journey, 5 to 6 years. And when I thought, ki, ha, yaar, now it's amazing and it's going out
Yeah.
really well. And I don't know how, from where, what will happen from here. But there were some things that were, really clicking well. And it was
Right.
checking most of the boxes. So,
Mm.
yes. So that is one. And then GSTN was also amazing. Where it's the whole prestige of working in a government company, that respect, and teaching tax officers about this tool, and the whole the authority that they had given me, the
Mm-hmm.
all that was really amazing. And this I'm learning, and the current job is loving it to the bits of it. So yeah, what to say about it. But it's 6 months now, and I
Uh-huh.
hope it just continue to grow like that. It's like my baby, uh you know
Right, right.
uh, carving everything from, yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
blank canvas. Yeah.
So I think, like from what you answered, that government consulting is something that actually thought you found it that, okay, I think I finally found what actually drives me or pushes me to get up and go to work every day, or that's where you found your passion after a lot of years of, doing this and that, switching jobs and seeing for yourself, hitting the pause from like whenever you needed, you took that break for yourself. So I think that is like something that is beautiful. Like everybody should do this and then understand basically that, okay, that here lies my interest, or this is what I draw gives me, like that that tickle that, okay, I should be working, I should go and
Yes.
put my best foot forward, and obviously admit that where you are responsible for each and everything. Like you said, it's your baby, you're carving everything out. So
Right, right. And
the
one more thing I want to add here, which I think I missed, is that why consulting gave me that push. That
Mhm.
that is when I realized that I am a great consultant. Maybe because I've always been a good listener, I've
Right.
been empathetic, and consulting is all about that. When you
Correct, correct.
understand a client's need and what they
Absolutely.
want, and that is where
Mhm.
you are being hired as a consultant. So, gradually in the process that I learned that, wow, this is what consulting is, man. That
Yeah.
and my all my skills were always for it, where what I
Mhm.
have been doing, and that is that is what, and that is helping me lead few things in life. So that is one point which I thought I missed it, and which was very crucial.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, just adding to what you just summarized.
Yeah. So I think if we look at what profile you enjoyed working most is as a consultant, because you have those qualities in you of empathy, and then you are a good listener. So I think these two things coincided with that profile of, a consultant really well. And that's why you felt that,
Yeah,
oh, this is what I was born for. This is that one thing that I'm very, very passionate about. And obviously,
that's correct.
prestige of working with the government is always that no matter what you do, like I think Indians mostly have that mentality, अरे government job कर लिया तो आपने सब पा लिया. So that kind of a mentality also it serves, I think, working, and that obviously it comes with that tag, and that like it's a flag on your shoulder that, okay, I work for the government. So I think a
Right.
lot of our audience is also maybe fancied with the term government job. So, is there any advice that you can give them on how they can, back themselves a government job?
Yes. So, firstly, I want to tell everyone that you should be very sure as to why you want to do that.
Hmm.
It's just because it's a fancy thing to
Correct.
do, then don't. Just you want to brag around about, being serving the government, separate case. Okay, do it only when you feel for it. Okay, so I am a very patriotic guy. I always have this thing of, that my country is going to do really well in life, and we have to contribute to that growth of our country and of our development, and that is what. So you really need to have that hunger, okay, and you really need to have that connect, the purpose, the objective, when you are going for it. So that is one part. And how you can do it, I think, these days what government are also doing is they really want sharp minds and smart minds to come and tag along in this
Correct.
whole
Very
journey of
crucial.
growth.
Hmm.
Yes, very crucial. Okay, so there are various means by which you can, be a part of this. And I'll tell you one. Just say there's an organization called NIST.
Okay.
Okay, so NISG is a body, okay, where through which you can go for contractual employment to all these government companies. Okay, there is one
Okay.
way like that.
Hmm.
Other is government consulting. If you really are, even though you are a CA, but
Hmm.
you want to do something really out of the box, nothing related to your curriculum or subjects that you have studied. Okay, then why not go for government consulting through these big fours? So all big fours are into government consulting now. Then there are many boutique firms that have also come into picture of government consulting. So that is one way, being a consultant and then doing work for government, or looking for these bodies. One is NISD for sure. Okay,
Hmm.
but there are time and again, like, so now GSTN is also now a government company. It was never a
Okay.
government company until some time ago, but now it's a government company, and they also put a lot of career opportunities outside. Okay,
Hmm.
so you really need to have, you have to look around and see that what matches with our CA and everything. So that is what one tip that I would like to give, that go only if you feel for it. You just can't go
Correct.
just
Correct.
like
Correct.
that.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, you're going to only spoil your career.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important and necessary thing one needs to keep in mind before they actually, jump into this government job thing. Like, just don't go get into it because it is the buzzing thing, and because it
Yeah.
seems like there is a lot of security. Obviously, that is a byproduct which comes with the government job, that you have a good security and a base, and obviously the compensation is one thing. A lot of people may go for it, but it won't serve you in the long term, because that need and that hunger inside you, that am I doing something that is actually important, or am I value adding value? So I think these things you need to ask yourself first, and what's your
Yeah.
purpose behind actually going into these profiles, or this government job is very, very crucial. I think a lot of candidates may miss out on that. They may not have a predefined purpose or why they do it. Like, like you said, that you have that patriotism inside of you and you want to actually do something. So I
Yes.
think if you lack
Yes.
that, then in the long term, it may not really serve you. So I think that's great.
Totally.
Thanks for that golden advice. Okay, so Rahul, you told us, you mentioned somewhere during this interview that you are very good with analytics now. So, which means you have a technology base to you right now. So, how important is it in today's changing times to have that kind of base, or that kind of an understanding, or that kind of skills in today's changing times? Can you throw us some light on that?
Totally important. It's imperative. You can't do without it. It's now like what English is, how English is important,
Mm,
how being how good you are with communication. It's like that. How good are you with technology? And
absolutely.
when you say technology, it does not really have to be that you are going to code an application, okay, or you need to go and pursue a degree in technology. Nothing of that sorts. It's
Mm,
just that you really need to have that technology bent
mm,
of mind. Like people are now talking about that if you have an entrepreneurial bent of mind, then you can really do good in finance. That's how
Correct,
people
correct,
think now.
correct.
So in likewise, technology is very important. Okay, so
Okay.
let's talk from very small things and very trivial now. That
Hmm.
until lockdown, nobody was comfortable doing things on Zoom and on
Absolutely.
these virtual
Yeah,
platforms.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now just see, this is happening virtually. So just imagine how things. So this is also technology, but
Right.
talking on a larger side, uh, I feel, it's very important to understand the different applications that have come in the market, and there are
Exactly.
host of it, ranging
Mhm.
from good accounting software. We only knew Tally till now, okay,
Yeah,
but then there are Zoho books that have come in, and QuickBooks that have come in, and there are other aspects also. And you know how you need to e-sign a document. So there are so many applications that you have to use it day to day, and unless
absolutely.
until you are accustomed to that and you are very familiar to working with it, and you familiarity comes with time, but openness has to be there. So
Right, right, right.
technology for sure. And a very important thing is being very analytical. And
Mm-hmm.
with analytical, since everything has become digitized with
Mm-hmm.
time, so it becomes data analytics. So what people often say me, what is data analytics? So it has always been there. Okay, and
Right,
Excel is a
right.
marvelous tool of being a data analytics tool. Though I
Correct.
have worked on SQL also, I've written queries on SQL, fetched data from a data warehouse. I've done all that. Okay,
Mhm.
but what people now want are two things. One is that you need to be analytical, it is given. And
Absolutely.
you being a CA, you have to be good with numbers. Now you can only be good with numbers when you can get those numbers from a system, no?
Correct, correct.
So that is where, and when you get those numbers, how you can be analytical and get the insights from that large chunk of data that is in front of you. So you
Mm.
can't do without it. Okay, so data
Absolutely.
analytics. And again, one more thing that is really important these days is presentations. So
Mm.
until now people have only been talking about PPTs and everything, but I feel presenting the data is also an amazing thing to do. Okay, how that that chart that you made speaks for itself. That what analysis have you done? Okay,
Absolutely.
so that is what I feel I'm really good at. Okay, so
Mm.
I take out
Correct.
numbers, then I try and put different presentations and charts to it. And it's not always asked for it, but when you give these reports to I've done it for government. Okay, I've been appreciated for it, and now I'm doing it for the management here again, which is being really appreciated for, because giving the summary in those beautiful charts and colorful charts. So technology is playing a role everywhere, every.
So I think Rahul, that was very well answered. That having a technology base in these changing times is absolutely crucial because you would find yourself handicapped without having the required skills of data analytics. As you said, it always exists, but now it is in a more structurized format, or it's become very very important because everything these days is AI. Like everything, you have to like your work starts from the computer and ends at the computer. So there is nothing that is the virtual world has actually taken up everything these days. So having that base, and if you're in a finance domain, then there are a lot of things that you need to be well versed with. That can be like SQL, like you mentioned. Obviously, you need to have your Excel skills, but there are other things like Power BI, and then there is Python for finance now. So there are these various skills one can learn that on the job, definitely. But I think you will be paralyzed if you didn't know all these.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
have an open mind and be open to learning these new tools and techniques of doing a work or getting job done. So Rahul,
Yes.
I have a very important and crucial question. A lot of people these days feel that is AI going to eat up a lot of our jobs? Are we going to become jobless because of AI coming in? Do we need to fear this, or should we gracefully accept and take it as a challenge that if we are the ones who brought in AI, then the fact that AI would one day replace us is not going to be possible because we are way more skilled. So, what is your take?
Mm.
Fear that?
Yeah. So I also think about that
Yeah,
now and then.
yeah, yeah.
And what my hunch says and what I see things happening around, jobs are not going to go down, but the the new jobs are going to come up, which will be very different. So which means if we have 100 jobs in the market, it is going to be 100, maybe 110. But
Mm,
then, so someone who was at a finance department, where, say 50 in the finance department of an organization, then they will go down to only
correct.
20 or 30,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they will move to a companies who are building those finance tools which are AI enabled,
yeah, yeah.
okay, and then providing it to that. So that is what I want to say, that there is, I see a lot of job restructuring might happen in near future, okay. And so which means that we have to be equipped. There's a very interesting thing I want to put it here when
Mm-hmm.
we are answering this question. Those Zerodha founders, okay, they
Mm-hmm.
said it once, and it's on their one of the posts. It's really beautiful that everyone has to think about it. That
Correct.
with life expectancy going up and technology being there for everything,
Mm.
we have a fear that now the retirement age is going to go down to 50.
Okay,
Okay, okay, so just imagine from 50 to 80, what are we going to do? So,
exactly.
so just imagine. So it has a very deep thing, uh,
Yeah, yeah, right.
which requires us to really think every day that are we equipped enough to, keep earning for ourselves and everything. So, so that's I think that's a really relevant point that I wanted to make here while we are discussing that.
Okay, so I think you answered it in a very different way. That this is one of the answers that I haven't come across till date. Like you said that a lot of people think that no, no, we need to fear it, we need to upscale ourselves or upgrade. Yes, definitely. But I think more than AI replacing us, it is just restructuring the jobs and it is taking away redundant tasks that human beings are actually more capable
Yeah.
of doing more intelligent tasks than these redundant tasks, like, suppose if it is a taxation thing. So now I think we can devote more of our times in actually thinking about case laws, like, actually doing those, like making uh, having a very good tax regime. I think those are the jobs that may open up more, or like advisory or consulting are the jobs that one must focus on rather than, compliance. Because compliance, you just teach the machine that these are the buttons you need to press, or this is how you gather the data and then, file the returns, and that would be done. So you just apply your brain
Yes.
to uh, design it, or you how do you make it equipped enough that it reduces your work and you actually use your intelligence in well like, better areas. So I think that is a very
Yes.
great thing that you brought up, and I think a lot of us may not think in that directions and understand this minute thing about AI coming in. So I think we need
Yes.
not
So there's
fear it.
another thing that I want to say. Sorry, I'm cutting
Yeah, yeah,
you.
sure, sure.
Robotic process automation. I don't know if you have heard of that, RPAs.
Okay,
So more
okay,
than AIs, it's called robotic process automation, where
okay.
most of the day-to-day finance tasks are automated. So I have
Right,
been
right.
involved in that, and
Mm.
way long back, maybe 9 years ago. So that was always there. Okay,
Right,
that
right.
so I'll tell you one example that there was a manual task that we used to do of posting entries every day. But with RPS coming in, okay, so that
Mm.
task had gone. So which means
Correct.
one manpower was gone. But that doesn't mean that I became redundant.
Right,
It's just
right.
that I was put into a better, role,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in ensuring
Absolutely.
that this happens correctly. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that is what I want to say. That restructuring. So there could be a fear of something else, but not of that. So
Correct,
it's
correct, correct.
always making sure that we don't get extinct. That's the whole
Mm.
idea. That's the whole
Correct, correct.
idea.
So I think it is definitely a AI is not a curse, but it is a blessing in disguise. Like we need not fear it, but we need to embrace it with open arms. But at the same time, we need to think that are we upscaling ourselves enough to fit into these restructurized job rather than, possibly like even in audit things are changing. Like from a CA's perspective, these are one of the two mainstream domains that a chartered accountant always went into, like
Yeah.
either it's tax or it was audit. So we couldn't think beyond tax and audit. But with the changing times, there
Yes.
are like 10 things that have come up. Like there is like investment
Absolutely.
banking, there's management consultancy, there's risk advisory. So all of these profiles have opened up, and it is actually opening our brains and making us actually think and do things that are really important and which only we can do and a machine won't be able to do.
And Trishika, I should mention one more thing. Maybe it is very helpful for all the budding chartered accountants that are joining the force, that look for techno-functional roles that are
Correct.
provided by Wipro, Infosys, IBM, TCS.
Mhm.
Amazing roles, and Accentures. Okay, just because they value us a lot, because they might have technology in hand, but they will
Mhm.
not have business knowledge. Okay,
Right, right, right.
so it is really important that one should focus on techno-functional roles.
I think that's a great advice.
Go,
For like chartered accountants, I think we should focus more on these roles now. If we actually
yes,
want to go ahead and build a solid foundation and a career, I think techno-functional roles is the way to go ahead. Okay,
absolutely.
wonderful.
That's there.
Thanks for that advice. And Rahul, what should one focus more on? Is it the domain or is it the company stats? Like, where do you weigh which one?
Superb. I knew that was coming. Okay, so undeniably, brand plays a crucial role.
Correct,
It
correct.
does. Okay. And when you say brand, what does it signify? One should understand. Okay. When we say EY, PWCs, or say big brands, now even, big startups who are unicorns are also now a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they a
Right.
brand? Why
They
are
are.
they called a brand? Okay. They are brand because they have evolved processes. They are smart thinkers behind that. Okay. Which
Correct.
has led to this company being this big. No company is big if there are smart thinkers, there are evolved thinkers in the company managing each function. Okay, so a
Mm-hmm.
good HR doing that beautifully, a good finance guy doing that beautifully, a good business guy, a good operations guy, and that is all together makes it a brand. So I say that one should definitely work for a brand, undeniably. Okay, because you being in that whole atmosphere, you will not even know when you start you have gained so much.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
it's just that in a room where scent is being you know where
Mm-hmm.
there is fragrance and fragrance, when you come out of that room you will also have that fragrance on you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like that. Okay, uh, you know uh, without knowing, you would be understanding that I'm getting a salary on very same day every month with no discrepancies. you know Invoices are being billed so nicely. All the reconciliations are in place. The numbers are done. And just
Mhm.
imagine a employee strength of 1,000. There are why is it there that no employee does any kind of fraud or can't even think of any kind of fraud? There must be some kind of controls that are built, no?
Mhm.
There must be someone who must be having that access to that bank account. Still nobody dares to do that. So I feel that one should work for a brand. Okay, but having said that, one should know at what stage of their career they should now
Correct, correct,
shift their focus from a brand to a profile, because brand will work until a point. Beyond that, I feel it is the profile that helps you create your personal brand, and from there you lead your path.
correct, correct. So is it in the start of one's career one should focus on brands, or is it after they've fixated on one profile, like, okay, now I want to do this, then you start looking for brands? When is it? Initially or like later on? How?
Initially,
Initially.
preferably initially.
Okay, so
Initially,
in
without any
start.
doubts.
Okay.
Yes, start of the career, get onto those brands, because again, talking only about chartered accountants,
Mm-hmm.
not everyone happens to get a articleship done from a big four or big
Correct, correct,
companies. Okay,
correct.
so most of us are deprived of that,
Right.
and no problem in that. Even I did never got a chance to work in big fours.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe God has planned it in such a way that today on 14th of January I am able to speak so much,
Mm-hmm.
despite of being an article from a big four. Because I always focused on my own development. Okay,
Correct.
and not relying on others to do that for me. And
Okay.
so that is what I want to say, that but having said that, I always had that thing that I need to work for brands because they are going to give something to me, and they have. So do that, and later on, never undermine the importance of having a solid profile, work profile for you,
Mhm.
because that is where that is going to put you on track and never help you derail from it.
Correct, correct, correct. I
So it
think
has to be a combination.
combination. Okay. So I think you need to think through very well on like what are you compromising. I mean, don't compromise way too much just for the sake of the brand where you're not getting enough to learn. But obviously, that brand gives you that, the essence. You also carry that with you once you even step down. You still have that kind of quality that imbibes in you because you worked in that
Absolutely.
kind of an environment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Totally. Totally. Totally.
So Rahul, you
Yes.
said that like you should work like startups have their like unicorn startups. They also have their own brand and everything. But that comes at a later stage for a startup. Like initially, possibly their idea may gain a little popularity, but people may not know them as a brand unless and until they really grow. And even if they do grow and stuff, they are still, loss making. Like a lot of startups are initially, obviously, that is the thing for all startups that initially they are a loss making company. So when so we can say that they are in an incubation period during these years, formative years. So should one as an individual at the start of their career go for a job at a startup, would that be recommendatory or no? Like what is the answer to this?
Okay.
I hope there is
Uh,
no biasness towards admit card because like
no, no, not really. No, not really. Not really. So I will try and answer it in the most unbiased way, and something that is only going to give a very valuable perspective to people.
Sure, sure.
You have to think for yourself. Are you a person who is a problem solver?
Hmm.
Okay, who is self-disciplined? Who is a go-getter?
Okay.
Okay, who is passionate? Okay, who wants to make an impact?
Hmm.
He or she is impact driven.
Hmm.
Okay, then startup is the thing. Okay,
Hmm.
and that could happen anytime. That could happen anytime. Okay, but having said that, it's very important for them to first go into brands.
Hmm.
Okay, reason being because there would be that thing which will always be knocking at their head and mind, saying, what if I would have been there? What if I would have been there? Okay, so go. So anyone who has that thing. So I now come across both the categories of people who say that let me first do it in a big four or in a this thing, and
Hmm.
then I will come later to you in 1 or 2 years because I keep
Yeah.
posting some jobs now and then. Okay,
Hmm.
but there are some people who say I am already done with it. I know what they do. Okay,
Correct,
so
correct.
but I want to have a perspective which is so wide enough, and I don't want to restrict my growth to only one aspect of a
Hmm.
finance or of a taxation. Okay, and then they
Correct.
say I want a complete big plate in front of me where I have everything to do. Okay, so
Absolutely.
then that's it. So if you are those kind of a person, most welcome. Come join a startup, make a big thing for yourself. uh Risk is always there, and reward is, the bigger the risk, bigger the reward, and that's absolutely true. Yes, so I always tell people that if I have done that, okay,
Hmm.
so I thought through it, and that is why I'm doing it. Okay, and so can you. But it is again very individualistic. Okay, don't make an impulsive decision. Okay,
Correct, correct.
money will never be a problem in startups. They are, but then you need to know about which startup you are joining, everything,
Yeah.
and your every action that you do know in a startup has an impact. Your founders are approachable, they are available.
Hmm.
Maybe you can do something that can just change the course of a startup. So that's the whole beauty of working in a startup.
Okay.
That is, and I think again, I feel very fortunate. I think maybe my good karmas that
Hmm.
I got to witness demonetization, I got to witness GST, and now when
Correct.
startups are doing the rounds everywhere,
Right.
I'm fortunate enough to be a part of that ecosystem also. And that is what about, and then maybe it's not only karma, but I think my openness and not my rigidity is
Right.
also
Right.
helping
Right.
me
That's very, very
together.
important.
Together, yes. I should not only, give credits to my karma, but
Hmm.
also a credit to my attitude that I have built during these years.
So I think Rahul very well answered, like whether one should go for a startup. I think if you have that caliber in you, whether you if you have that kind of a confidence in you that you can work as an engine of a big machine, then startup is a yes. But if you don't have that confidence in you that maybe I lack something that I may not be very efficient as as a engine in a machine, because that is like one of the most crucial, that does a lot of functions, that it is
Yes,
responsible for the machine to actually work. So if you have
yes,
that kind of caliber capacity, and if you can take that much of load on yourself, then I
that's
think
correct.
one should aspire to get into a startup. And obviously, you
That's
said
correct.
that you first, if you want, you can go with brands and then get your hands dirty there and then understand, okay, well, how does this happen? And then maybe there you're not that big a deal in those companies, because obviously the size is extremely big in a
True,
big company. There you may
true.
work as a small screw of that whole machine, but when you come in a startup, you are expected a lot. Like you have to bring a lot to the
Absolutely.
table, and that's one.
Absolutely. So a little change in
Yeah,
what you said.
yeah, 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 sure.
Your hands will be very clean there. It
Uh,
gets dirty in startup.
in
Okay.
startups, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
right, right.
yes, right.
Absolutely. So I think if you've gotten that experience and then you feel that, okay, now is the time that I need to take up something that's more challenging, or that may actually make me do things by myself and get my hands dirty, then yes, startup is the answer. Uh,
Yes. So there is no right or wrong answer anytime. It
yeah,
is a
yeah,
very individualistic choice that I want to repeat again and again. It
correct.
just can do wonders for someone who just joins an early stage startup, and
Mhm.
he's a risk taker, and it can just do wonders for that guy. Okay, but
Absolutely.
for someone else it might not just do, because
Work
he
out,
would
yeah.
not have the right aptitude to handle that. Then
Mm-hmm.
why do you want to spoil your career? No. So
Absolutely.
assess for yourself and do a very calculated decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you need to analyze the profile really well before you actually take up the job. Like you understand what is expected out of you, and if you can deliver that, then go
Yes,
ahead. If not, then please stick to whatever you will do.
yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
okay. So I think that was answered, and a lot of us have a clarity on that. So now, last question, and one of the most thought of questions is that should one focus on money or the domain? Like, what should one's approach, or what should one more focus more on? It's a
My
dilemma
very obvious,
obviously.
no, my very obvious answer would be profile,
Okay,
domain.
okay.
Okay, money is a very byproduct of that. Unless you have a goal that you want to start on your own, you need
Mm-hmm.
to have a business. Okay,
Correct.
and and it's just a short term thing for you. Then go for a very highly paid job and build a capital for yourself. Okay,
Okay, okay.
and then that's the answer.
So basically, if you're very sure that you're going to be able to, like, how, what business you have absolute clarity on, like, I don't want to do this business and this is what. So then obviously you need to gather a lot of capital in your working years of working for someone else. So I think that is when you need to have that focus on money. But if you're
I have taken, personally speaking, I
uh,
think I was in a very highly paid jobs in the beginning. I
okay,
took a dip myself. Okay,
okay,
I will be very honest. I
uh-huh.
took cuts just to get onto the right track,
Wow, wonderful.
because that was bothering me. That
That
was
I
bothering
think
me.
that
So money
requires
is,
guts. Yeah.
yes. So that is because you can earn, but then you have to have a sustainable career for yourself.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
you just can't have a short term career and then you just are going for the heck of going there and just to earn.
Absolutely.
Okay, just don't go to earn anything, just go there to learn and earn.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the idea. Yes, so
So even if
that's
there
and
you,
but I
yeah, yeah. Please go
but
ahead.
very bluntly said, during my mentorship sessions in CMO, people used to ask me that
Yeah,
I want to have a practice on my own, or I have a
correct.
business idea that I want to do you still recommend me doing X job, Y job, Z job? So they used to put that in front
Mm-hmm.
of me, and then I used
Correct.
to pick the Y job for them, because
Mm,
I knew that it is only going to be short term. I know it is going to be very rewarding for them, and that is
correct.
what they need for those years. So choose a rewarding job for yourself, and that also gives you time. Okay, so sometimes
Absolutely.
to get the business ready, to be
Mm,
business ready, and so you need to have that time to invest and also the capital to fund it later. So always choose a job that gives you both. Either it gives you time, or either it gives you money. Okay, uh, or if it gives you both, nothing like it.
right,
And
right.
choose for that, choose for. But otherwise, if you really want to be in the job for a very long time, say 15 years, don't compromise on your profile or
Profile.
domain. Work,
Right.
work towards that.
So I think that's well answered. But even if somebody has a financial crunch, then also would you recommend the same? Like if somebody is really, not maybe in a
Hmm.
comfortable position. This can be the situation in an ideal household where the family is doing fine, but is it recommendatory even if somebody is going through a crisis in their house or if
No,
they no. Okay, so
no,
then you would
no.
need like
I have had cases. I
uh,
have had mentoring sessions where he was the only earning member.
correct, correct.
Okay, there have been cases when people have told me that they suffer from anxiety. Okay,
Hmm.
and I have recommended jobs that are very easygoing, giving them work life balance. Okay,
Hmm.
I told them it's you can make your career. Why there is nothing so to make a hue and cry out of it. Okay, and
Hmm.
till the time you are focused, okay, till the time you are doing great in that role in which you have been put into, go ahead and do it. It will shape
Hmm.
for you, but then you always have to in your mind, in your head, you will have to keep working towards it. Okay, it,
Correct,
it
correct.
just can't be that that parallel work in your head and mind should always work. That these many years this much, after that I will slightly change my course, go here, slightly change my course, go here, and finally I'll make it there. Okay, I've
Hmm.
seen. So I am also one of the examples who've gone from here to there. Okay, but it is purely because of my aptitude, networking,
Correct, correct.
and other factors also. Okay, because maybe maybe later down the years I would see that yes, maybe I played my cards right, but cards you can play right, but you just don't know what will happen in that table
Absolutely,
of
absolutely.
life. Right? So
Yeah.
similarly, I think, so be very open. I think sometimes people go into a guilt trip saying that I
Hmm.
chose money, but that was the need. So it's okay. I mean, you are answerable to your own self, as long as
Exactly.
that gives. Yeah,
So I think
that's
a
the
lot of people have this whole, they sometimes give in to money because of something called as peer pressure. Like your peers are earning more than you, and then that puts a burden on you. Like you may just ignore or neglect the fact that you may be learning more than them. Maybe you're earning little
hmm.
lesser in your current profile, but your learning wise and your growth wise, you're way ahead of them. So I think one should swallow
Absolutely.
your pride at that very minute and try to understand that you're in for a longer run than like. So I think it's
Totally, totally. You want to be a tortoise or a rabbit? Choice is yours. I want to be a tortoise.
hmm. So that is one one choice that you need to make for yourself, and maybe for the time being it may not look great, it may not look like a great going for you, but long term obviously you're the one who's going to win if you make wise decisions through every step of your career, right?
Totally, totally. Don't get tired or exhausted in the very beginning.
Yeah,
Nowadays, people are breaking the records of becoming a CA at 20, 21. So I
right.
think what's the big deal?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
started at 23, and
Mm.
it's going great because we are not tired or exhausted.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we should always learn to enjoy life. And
Mm.
as I rightly said that it's very easy to be in a situation where I am today and answer some questions where
Mhm.
it is purely because of my experience. Okay,
Absolutely.
and it's not that every day was a rosy day. Most of the days were full of thorns. Okay, where I was always figuring out as to what am I doing. Okay,
Right, right.
those days nobody knew that. Okay,
Yeah,
but I've gone through that. So but I never got tired. That's the whole idea.
absolutely. I think that's great. Thank you, Rahul. Like, I think we've got some really, really interesting and insightful answers from you. Like, all the questions were
Great.
answered really, really well. And I think a lot
Super.
of us are going to benefit out of this. And we've touched a lot of segments here. Like we've gone from
Totally.
profiles, like whether to switch profiles, whether to work for startups, whether to work for money, whether to go for a brand or. So I think we've answered a lot. And government jobs, obviously, that was also touched like that
Totally.
a lot of students may have a query of, oh, how do you get into this and what approach mindset. I think we've covered like a lot of segments, and thanks to your diverse profile and your vivid experience that we were
Totally.
able to capture this much of information in this 40 45 minutes that we've had with you. I think it was a absolute pleasure having you on board with us. Thanks a lot for doing this round.
Great. Thanks as well. And it was quite a all-rounded interview with so many questions and
Correct.
very well articulated
Mhm.
ones, which helped me also, bring out my thoughts in front of you.
Yeah,
And great. I mean, I hope it is helpful for most of us. Yes. So I think
definitely.
interview done right. Interview done right. Yeah.
Yeah, surely. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll
Great.
end on that.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.